I'm just a Michigan-made girl who survived major trauma after major trauma. I moved all over the country in the United States, north, south, east, and west. But it wasn't until I found myself wanting to end my life right smack in the middle of the country that I realized I could no longer run from the pain of my past. I needed to heal it so I could have the future I deserved and longed for. Now I speak on multiple stages and pages about how to turn your tragedies into your triumphs. Here I have fantastic specialists and guests to help me on that journey, to help people not only around the country, but now around the globe. I'm a speaker, podcaster, coach, and author, but most of all, I am now a victor in my life. And now my mission is to help you find the victor in you.
Welcome to Multiform PTSD. Here's your host, Tracy Lowry.
Breast cancer survivor coach Sarah Hall shares about having one child and another on the way when she herself was diagnosed with breast cancer. She goes on to share her story of the difficulties and her recovery. We also discuss the importance of resiliency during any crisis recovery. She is now partnered with Faith Through Fire, a nonprofit organization that helps mentor women through their post-active cancer treatment phase. Please help me welcome Miss Sarah Hall. All right, so today we have Miss Sarah. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and I just have to say, let's go ahead and call it out right now. That backboard, can you tell us where that came from?
So she's looking at my headboard. I'm right. Sitting in my bed because the sound is just better in my room when I have all the padding around. But right. I made this from Pinterest. I'm kind of a little bit of a crafty person. That's how I get that juju out. Yes, I love it. I love it. Yeah. I do the same thing. I'm not that kind of crafty, but I'm a writer. I'm a drawer. That's how I get my creative worked through. Mm-hmm. So like I said, nice. That is not my talent, but way to go, you. I just thought I'd call it out because I would be so proud if I were you. Moving on, why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about you and your story and what kind of brought you here to this point? Yeah, I was, I was just trucking along as a normal mom. I had a daughter who was 3.5, and I was pregnant with my second daughter. When I got diagnosed with breast cancer, I was 31 weeks pregnant with her. And it kind of hit me like a freight train because I didn't have any kind of cancer history in my family. And it was very out of the blue. Wow. Went through all my treatment and everything. And there's a book and it's The Upside of Stress. And I think the reason why I'm mentioning it is because there's a line in it and she talks about how like helping others is such a great way to heal. And from my breast cancer journey, what has become of it is so much help for other people. And I have finally feel like I have found my purpose in the world, helping other women go through the journey and helping women find ease and survivorship. It's been my calling. So it's hard and it's a little weird to say, but like, I feel like breast cancer was like the best thing that ever happened to me. Is that funny?
Funny? No. But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful because I think, any kind of big diagnosis or issue, you can either use it as, like you said, it could be the best thing that happened to you in your life or it could be the worst. And I think a lot of it is attitude and mindset. And so it sounds like to me, like that was something that you just took and ran with. I can't imagine. My mom is she 15 years clean now?
Clean, like she's sober.
Right. Yeah, no. 15 years.
She's a 15-year survivor.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
But she was older. And so I can't imagine being a young mom and pregnant. And can I ask just real quick, since you were pregnant, what kind of treatment were you allowed to do through that? And second child is healthy and good and all of those things?
Yep.
Awesome.
She
awesome.
was, we ended up having her at 35 weeks. So typically how it works is when you're diagnosed, women usually find it pretty early in pregnancy. It is highly unusual for women to find it this late in pregnancy. When you find it earlier in pregnancy, there are options like you can get chemo while you're pregnant, which I did not know.
I did not know that.
But because I was so close to the end, we ended up deciding to go with a 35-week induction. And then I had my daughter, she was healthy. She was so tiny and like she's normal, like she's grown up. There's no delay because she was born early or anything. But awesome. I then went just the normal treatment. I had a mastectomy first. And then because I actually, and this is kind of a key point to my story, and I don't probably give it as much credit as I probably should, but something that was really devastating for me was to lose the ability to breastfeed. And I breastfed my first for like a year and a half. And that was the hardest part of processing my entire cancer journey, was losing that with my daughter, losing the fact that I was like planning a home birth. Like I had lots of things to process in that whole, everything that transpired in that 4 weeks. And, but I ended up deciding to have a single mastectomy because if I had been stage 0, I was going to be able to breastfeed. I would just have one breast. And, so I chose to do a single mastectomy, and looking back now, how much that told me, like that decision alone told me about how I stand up for myself and what I really want. At the time I was just like, well, this is what I'm going to do. And it didn't seem like that big of a deal. But I think since then it's been pointed out to me like, whoa, you made this choice when you could have had one surgery where you had a double mastectomy and reconstruction. You chose to like create more surgeries so that you could potentially give yourself the opportunity to do something that was really important to you.
Right.
That holds like a lot of gravity and weight now.
Yes.
But at the time it didn't.
Good.
Now it's very important. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there was a lot of learning experiences, I'm sure, and things that you noticed in your growth. That's fantastic. I'm glad. And you're recovered, and you had chemo then after you had the mastectomy, correct?
Yes. Yeah. I had the single mastectomy. And then once my tumor markers came back, then we found out it was actually stage 1, which then meant I had to have chemo. I did get to breastfeed my daughter for 2 months, and then I had chemo. So then I obviously had to stop. And then I went back for the double and the reconstruction. So,
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot just
but all healthy now. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Congratulations. I'm glad all is good and happy. And I like having those stories. So can you talk a little bit about how it was briefly? I don't want to stay here, but briefly, can you tell me what your mindset was when you first were diagnosed and you're pregnant, and how did that all shape out at first? Were you able to be like, everything's going to be great? Because it sounds like you have a great mindset.
First, I do. And I had a lot of people ask me like, how are you doing this so well? Like, how are you going through this so well? Even my husband was like, why are you not devastated?
Right.
I think I was, but I think as moms, we just tend to put on that like incredibly brave face, and just get through it. And there just seemed to be, I'm very type A, and I know there was action steps like, okay, well, I've been diagnosed, and now the action step is like have my daughter and like do this. And each step required me to think and to like, judge the situation for what was best for me. And through that became a lot of growth, because I had to really weigh like what was important to me and what wasn't, and what did I have to grieve and what didn't I? And there was lots of times where I would probably say that I was like, just shove it down just so that you could like get through this.
Right.
But that's where I really think the importance, and maybe I'm going to fast forward a little bit. The importance of survivorship is so wildly important. And I think, and you might, this might be another question, but like after, when the doctor checks you off and is like, you're done, like you've done all your treatment, you're kind of left in ruin, and you have to dig up all of those things that you're like, I have to just do the next step. Like I have to just do and then you have to process them and grieve them. And that for me was the hardest part.
Okay.
It was so hard. So hard.
Yes, let's go ahead and go there. Because like I said, I don't necessarily want to stay in that, but I have heard from a lot of cancer survivors that it, kind of like you said, it was like checklist. Okay, I have this appointment, we're gonna do this, and then I'm gonna have my baby, and then we're gonna do this, and you just kind of had a schedule that could keep you focused. But as soon as you got that full bill of health, and okay, you're done. See you in a year. That's kind of when some of the emotional trauma from it all kind of hit. And I know a lot of people have said they felt almost not forgotten or kind of just dropped off and okay, see you later, good luck, and not so much help during that time of things. So can you tell us a little bit about that? You said that was the worst part.
Yeah.
What was
it felt like it feels like you're trying to put on skin that doesn't fit anymore. Like you think, I'm just going to go back to my old life. I'm going to go back to my job and working 9 to 5, and I'm going to be the parent that I'm going to be. And so much is different about it because your perspective is different. Like, no, regardless of your stage 1, stage 0, I feel like it's like being in a car accident that you survived from. Like, there's survivor guilt is a thing. Like there is a deeper understanding in the importance of like relationships or the non-importance of some relationships, or the importance of just things in general. Like some drama that seemed like it might've been important a year ago is totally not important anymore. So when I went through it, I want to say the wheels, when I noticed the wheels fell off was exactly 1 year after my diagnosis date, when all the treatment was done. And I had like just finished my last surgery and I was just getting back to work, like really full time. I remember my work at the time, they kind of had this like intervention for me. And it was like this after work meeting. And they're like, you're just not the same Sarah. You're like, your drive is not there. And I definitely believe it was out of a place of love, but like nobody really knew what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. And I was trying to navigate this new health thing. And it was very different. I struggled with like insomnia, and I couldn't lose weight like I had lost weight before. And I was having dark thoughts that it's like they came out of nowhere. And there was so much about it that just felt like I was watching my life from an outsider's perspective. Like, that's not me. Why are you responding in this way? And thinking those thoughts, but then feeling guilty about it, because you're like, well, okay, then just stop being that way. Just be a different way.
It's that easy. Just stop.
Just stop. Yeah. So yeah, and I had never seen a mental health professional ever in my life. And it was the first time I remember telling my family and friends and everything. I'd be like, well, I'm going to go see a counselor. They're like, what's wrong? Well, what shouldn't be wrong right now? I mean, literally what I just went through.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
How were you able to get through that? How were you able to work through that and find your mindset that you beautifully obviously have now? How were you able to turn that around? What were you able to do? Was it just the counseling in and of itself? Were there other things you did along with it? Can you tell us how you were able to switch that over a little bit?
Yeah, I did a lot of things kind of all at the same time. I'm kind of a big believer. Like if you look at I don't remember my 5 strengths. What are those called? You take the quiz and there's 5 strengths. I can't remember, but my strength words, my top one is learning. And so I hit the books like, okay, what can I teach myself about what I'm going through? And, of course I use Dr. Google, which is not always the best thing, but it definitely can point you in the right directions as long as you have an open mindset.
Right.
And, so I started doing like some reading around functional medicine. I started reading some like Dr. Mark Hyman books.
Okay.
I did a detox cleanse of my diet. So I took some things out of my diet. But at the same time I was starting the counseling. I didn't ever make it to meds because I did this 21-day hormone reset diet where I took like every 3 days, I took something different out of my diet. By the end of it, I had lost weight, which I hadn't been able to do in 6 months. I had I was sleeping better, and I was finally not having like the super crazy dark thoughts anymore.
Wow.
And
from changing your diet.
Really just from changing my diet. Yeah.
Wow.
And I think a lot of our hormones are affected by the things that we eat, but we also sometimes we eat because we're stressed, and I am a stress eater. So it's like,
yes,
the cycle was just constantly going for me. So like, I'm stressed, I'm going to eat. And then everything gets worse. And so when I really was successful with the 21 days, it did so many things for me. It gave me the confidence that like, hey, you like grabbed the bull by the balls and you like actually did something about this, and you have the power to change this. And then also it just like made me feel better because I cleaned something up and I did something that affected so many different things that, it just started the ball.
No kidding. Yeah. I love it. But I love how it was takeaways. What can I do? It was an action, not just to sit back and let things happen. It was, I'm going to take action. I'm going to make changes. I think that's awesome. It's so important, especially when it comes to mindset. And I think it can happen in a lot of different ways, but I love that you did the diet, but you were also doing the counseling, and you were also like, you were kind of treating yourself as a whole, not just one part of you. And I think that's huge. Correct. Huge. Yeah. So you talked about functional medicine. Just briefly, what do you mean by functional? I'm familiar, but go ahead and
fill the listeners in. Yeah. So functional medicine, it's kind of that, like, so my background, I actually have a master's in athletic training. So I feel like my expertise is in functional movement. So it really clicked with me when I started kind of going down this path, because functional movement means at the core of it, you are learning the basic patterns of movement to make all your movement better. So functional medicine is the exact same thing. So you get down to the root of the problem. So if you've got like high blood pressure, you're having depressive thoughts, or, whatever, it's pointing to something. Like your body is telling you something. Just like if you get a zit after you eat chocolate, okay, well, chocolate probably does something to your hormones that makes you have a zit. Or I don't know, if you have stress and you have constipation, like your body is pointing you to the stress. It's causing the constipation. So
it's a symptom. I think it's not the cause. You need to find the cause. Yes.
So functional medicine does just that. It finds the cause of something. And what is my absolute favorite thing about just in general functional medicine is that you end up like with a doctor in conventional medicine. I have nothing against them, and I obviously use them. But I think that it's go to the doctor, they tell you what to do, and then you implement it, and then the problem goes away. But what did you learn? And that's learning is my thing. So I made changes and I implemented them, and I learned along the way to listen to the cues that my body tells me. So if like yesterday, I had a little bit of a headache. I was behind in my water. So I had a little bit of green tea and I had bumped up my water and my headache went away. I know that because I've spent lots of time experimenting with like all the variables about my day, which is functional medicine. Functional medicine looks at your hormones, and you change your diet, or you change a supplement, or you do this, and ultimately it creates a better picture, like physical health.
Very well done. After I asked, I was like, oh, I hope she doesn't feel like I put her on the spot on that one. But no, you mentioned it.
I am not a functional medicine doctor by any means. Just a believer.
Yes. I think that's even better though, honestly, because you're a believer because it worked for you, not because it's your profession. So I like that. Yeah. So let's move forward. And I know you mentioned in some of our correspondence already the importance of resilience and in helping other women. I want to move into how you work now with other women, or is it just women that you work with?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I thought.
Right now. Yeah. Yep.
How do you help them through their diagnosis and resiliency, and probably even more importantly, the aftermath of after the treatment's done, and after how do you now help other women in that transition in their life?
So I am part of an organization called Faith Through Fire. It's a nonprofit, and it was started here in St. Louis. We had the founder is one of my good friends, and she's also, I have a podcast with her. She realized and recognized that there was a huge disconnect between what the providers were giving women who were diagnosed and what they were mentally needing, which was like someone to be there to hear them that has gone through it.
Right.
So she created a mentorship program where it's all text based. So I'm mentoring somebody who's like in New Mexico, and I'm in St. Louis, and I have somebody who's in Utah, and then I've got a bunch of people around St. Louis. So when you get diagnosed, you can go online and you fill out a form, and you say like, here's all that I know about my cancer. And she matches you with somebody who's got similar interests, maybe similar diagnosis. And then you get to have somebody when you have those freak out moments, like as you're going through your journey,
right?
Which you do. Like, I remember they mailed me my chemo drugs, and I was reading all the side effects, and I literally just sat on the toilet and cried.
Right.
And like, you have somebody to go to be like, I'm so worried about this. Like, I'm so worried about losing my hair. And then they've been there. They can, it's not necessarily to tell you the options, but to tell you the resources that are out there, to tell you that it's going to be okay, to tell you that on the other side, you're going to be a stronger person.
Right.
Like, that is the mentor program.
I love it.
Right now, we are kind of, we're not shifting, but we're also creating, because we've realized that everything that I went through happens to most women. And we were just labeling it when the wheels fall off. And that's not good enough. Like, it's not good enough to just say that we're here for you for when that happens. We need to give them the tools to understand that post-traumatic stress is a real thing in cancer. It's not just for military vets. It's not just for being in a car accident. It is a real thing. And we want to equip them with like a course on resiliency and what that looks like in breast cancer survivorship. And maybe if they've got goals for nutrition, or if they've got goals for weight loss, or if they've got goals for just like feeling better spiritually, whatever the case may be, we wanted a platform for them to go to talk to other women, to get understanding. So that's right now what we are creating.
Okay. That is awesome. I'm
Thanks.
grateful that there are people like you guys out there doing this thing, because I totally agree. There's a gap, and there needs to be a bridge. I think there's a lot of gaps when it comes to the medical profession. And I'm a nurse, so I have nothing against the medical profession. I just want to say that right now. But especially when it comes to things,
there's only so much time in the day.
Yes. And when you're dealing with any kind of trauma, it just changes things when you're working with someone who's been there and understands, rather than just telling you what they have learned from a textbook or research or things like that. When it's someone who's like, hey, I get the anger right now. I get the fear. I get the frustration and the sadness, but I've been through that. Let me help you get through that minefield and get to the other side. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. You can have hope. You can have your life back. You can XYZ. It just is different when it's someone who gets it. It makes it so much easier. So bless you. Do you work just with breast cancer survivors?
Yes. So we've decided to keep it just with breast cancer survivors. If we notice down the road, because that's what we have. I'm a health and wellness coach, and I have coached like a lymphoma survivor, and there's so many parallels, especially just with women and being young and a mom. And there's like lots of parallels between like what happens just in real life. But for now, the platform will be breast cancer. Yes.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. I applaud you. I truly, truly do.
Oh, thank you.
What kind of tools, I guess, do you use to help people with being resilient? How do you help someone build resilience that maybe doesn't even have a clue where to get started, depending on how they grew up or how they've been managing life currently, at that time? How do you help someone build resilience? I think no matter what is going on in your life right now, I think right now a lot of us kind of could use some help with being resilient. What can people take home with and just start working on their resilience?
So I would say the biggest thing that I can tell anyone ever to do is to like love yourself. And by loving yourself, that means really understanding yourself and if that's important to you. Like if it's important to you to reach goals for weight loss, like do it yourself, like figure out, learn, understand your body, listen to your body. When it tells you something, like don't ignore it. Like you wouldn't ignore your best friend when they were telling you something important, would you? So like love yourself by listening to yourself.
Yes. I love that. Yeah. I feel like our bodies naturally know how to heal and recover and things like that. And I think it's always trying to send us messages like we were talking about earlier with the functional medicine. It's our body is always giving us messages. And once we get used to kind of taking a look inward, quieting the world down and listening to our bodies, it will tell us what it needs, what it wants, and how to facilitate the best healing approach that you might need. Because some people maybe have a bad diet. Some people maybe don't eat enough, or maybe they eat too much of the junk. You know, everyone kind of has a different, what they specifically need to do, but their body knows. And sometimes they just need a little nudge or a little bit of knowledge or guidance or help with supplements or diet or exercise, whatever, to help it do that. And if we can sit back and, for me, I have to quiet my mind down so I can hear what my
meditation.
Body. Yes. And I do. I do need that. I need to get back into that practice because I've been feeling too much noise. I need to quiet it down and listen to what my body's trying to tell me.
But that learning that you know that about yourself, that took learning to get there. And you know, half the time if you do struggle with like, I don't even know where to begin. Like this is where you hire a health and wellness coach. You hire a personal trainer if you don't know how to move. Like you go see a doctor if you got something wrong. So like have somebody teach you how to do those things. I mean, it's the best money you will ever spend because it's a lesson that you will constantly use for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. And what I like to say is
about this.
I love it. Yeah. I think what's so important though, is when we're working on ourselves and looking for others to help us, we sometimes feel, especially I think us women and moms, where it's not important to take care of ourselves or it's being selfish. So we don't do that very well. So what I like to say is, you know, for all those who are there, I still say the best gift we can give those that we love, whether it be our children or our family or our loved ones, is our health and our well-being. That's the best gift we can give anybody, especially those in our inner circle that we care about the most. So get it started, learn what you need to learn, practice what you need to practice. And then you can kind of go, okay, you know what? I am worth it. It is okay for me to take care of myself. It's not me being selfish. It's just me being smart.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I could not agree more. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Like if your cup is empty, you cannot pour into someone else's. You will do it ineffectively or it won't happen at all.
Right. And if you only have this much and you have to pour someone out, then you pour out to them and then you have nothing left.
Nothing.
Yeah. And if, you know, what if your kid gets sick or, you know, there's things that happen, need to be our best self. And even just making sure we have what we need and taking care of ourselves will make better decisions, will move better and easier. Things just work better when we are well balanced, when we are well cared for, and then we can help others. And it'll be even easier because we are at our best. So that's kind of how I did it for me. I had to first think about it. I have to do it because I have to be the best mom. And I have to be the best version of me for these people. And then finally I was like, you know what? I deserve it too. I'm worthy.
Right. And when all those people, like when your kids are out of the house, like who's going to be left? You. Yeah. You don't want to be like the left in ruins. Like, oh, there's nothing left of me because I didn't give anything to myself while my kids were little. Like you can still give to yourself and still be there for your kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the best things we can do for our kids. Now, obviously, that can be taken to the extreme. And I've seen, you know, I'm just taking care of myself, or I'm just doing this, where then you are being selfish and you're trying to cover it up as self-love. And then you end up having kids that are being abandoned and neglected. And that's a whole nother issue. There is a balance there. But I think if you're just truly trying to take care of yourself, it makes the rest of your day easier. I find if I take care of myself, then my time management's better. I'm more efficient when I'm doing things. And if you make it a practice, then when things come up that normally maybe like really stress you out or just knock you completely out of whack, if you have that reserve, then it's easier to be resilient. You can, yep, this sucks, but we'll take care of it and move on. If you're on complete empty and something like that happens, you've got nothing to draw from.
Exactly.
You've got this mentorship. Is it texting and emailing?
So it's all text based. I think the thing that can become overwhelming when you are diagnosed is that people will come out of the woodwork to help you, and like friends that you've never talked to in a while or you're not close with, but it's really nice. I've never even seen some of my people that I mentor, and I know some very intimate details about them, and and it makes it nice because they feel vulnerable they feel less vulnerable to share things with me because it's all been text based. So by the time they're done with their treatment, like we are like bonded because we know each other. And you feel safe with that person. And so then it's like, now I feel comfortable to meet you if they're comfortable. Like, I am actually meeting a couple of mine. We're doing like an in-town shopping event in a couple weeks. And I'm excited to finally meet them. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'll actually get to put a face with the name, and we can be Facebook friends and stuff like that. So we see each other, but still, it's different. It's nice because you're not overwhelmed. Like I have to go meet this person for coffee. Like, I mean, it's all over text. So if somebody texts me in the middle of the night, if they're a night owl, I can text them back the next day. Like it's very, it's low bar work wise, but it's the work the value that you give that person is like immeasurable. Right. And you can meet them where they are, no matter where they're at. Exactly. And help lift them up from there. Well, I am so glad that there are people like you out there who are doing this work. I think my mom could have really benefited from that. But luckily my mom's best friend had breast cancer before she did. So she at least had her to kind of be like, yep, I still go through that. It's normal. She was 15 years ahead of my mom and her recovery. So she was way down the road. So she at least had her to kind of be that mentor without putting a label to it. But it really does increase somebody's resiliency, because I had an aunt that by marriage, she was my person that I looked up to, my mentor, but she had the exact same cancer as me. We had the exact same drugs, and I would call her and I'm like crying or whatever. And she's like, honey, I'm like 18 years out from this, and like you didn't even know I had it until you got diagnosed. Like I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Like this isn't going to be part of my daily life going forward. So it is that whole mentor program. That's exactly what we want, is that, look, this isn't going to be part of your daily life, and here's how you can mitigate the things that will come up for you. So someone who is going through or is just gone through cancer, you mentioned pretty much at the beginning where helping others was good for you and your recovery and kind of getting back to life. Do you see that in other people you work with? Everybody's going to be different. I think for me in general, anytime that it's just like, if you go do charity work, you don't leave feeling like a worse person, do you? Like nobody feels that way. So I think anytime you have the ability to help someone, it's always going to make you feel better. I can't say, I know that there have been a couple of women that I have mentored in the Faith Through Fire program that are now mentors because of, like, they were near the end of their journey and they're like, I can't wait to help other women who are also going through this. And so I can see that it's something that they look forward to being on the other side, and almost gives them like a target. Like, I'm going to be strong for the person that I help behind me. Right. So. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of that. So how can people learn more about what you do in the organization? Yeah. You can find us on faiththroughfire.org. And through there, you can request a mentor. We have a couple of we have a little shop in there that's got like some affiliates, like products. And then what's going to be coming soon, and we're hoping within the next month or two, is going to be our survivorship platform. We built it on Mighty Networks, and it's like, we wanted to build it off of Facebook so that we didn't have to worry about like algorithms and things getting lost. So it's gonna have a lot of high content information. We're going to be posting like monthly workouts, monthly meal plans to help people if that's their goals. We're going to be actually posting a resiliency course within that platform. And so we're hoping that that's up soon, and we want just as many survivors in there as possible. We're going to be giving a lot of high quality content in there. So
awesome. Yeah. So let me ask the question that I'm asking everyone here on season 2. If you've got that person who maybe just got a diagnosis or is struggling with the aftermath of the after treatment, and they're really struggling with things and they aren't sure what to do, where to go, what to do next, and not even sure they even want to try, there can be a lot of helplessness and hopelessness that can kind of arise in all of that. What would you tell to that person in that space right now?
Well, I would say come join our community, but then I would say first, because there's lots of things in there, but sometimes I've seen in people, it is hard to just say like, this is a problem and I need help. So I think, going back to listening to your body, but understand what you need as a person and then asking for it. And
it sounds so simple, and it is simple, but it's not always easy to do that. So I like that you brought attention to it. What do you say is, because I know some people, I'm a woman of faith by far. Do you have to be a woman because it's faith by fire, faith through fire?
Nope. Faith through fire.
Faith through fire.
It is not. It was the woman, Beth, who created it, is a Christian woman, but she, no, we are open. There really isn't, I think on the survivorship platform, we are going to have a section for like spiritual health, but it is not, it's like non-denominational. So I'm mentoring somebody who is Jehovah's Witness. There's many mentors in our program that are Jewish. So no, it is. And there's lots of Catholics here around St. Louis. So no, wellness has a spiritual component, but Faith Through Fire came from Beth's Christianity. Okay. That is it.
Well, thank you so much for being here and on the show and everything you do.
Thank you. I will let you know when our survivorship network is up.
Yes. Awesome.
Yes. Awesome. Would love it. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome. Hey, it's Tracy. I'm just here real quick to remind you to please subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening. We're on all major podcast platforms, including Google, Apple, and Spotify, and also on YouTube. Thanks for being here.